Good afternoon. I'd like to bring the K-12 Education Subcommittee to order. Madam Clerk, you may take the roll. You may close the roll. A quorum is present to conduct our business today. Thank you for joining us in person and online. We have a busy docket, so we'll be moving right along. We ask that you keep your testimony to less than 1 minute and address any comments through the chair. And please exercise decorum and respect for our members. First, we will take testimony in person in favor, and then we will move to in person opposed. This will be followed by online testimony in favor and then against. Once again, please keep comments online to less than 1 minute, and please turn your cameras on per the rules of the House of Delegates. You can also submit comments using hodspeak.virginia.gov. We do check out those comments online, so please make sure you submit written testimony. For example, I wanted to thank Hampton Roads Military Alliance for submitting comments for today's meeting. Well, without further ado, let's get our agenda going. We will start with, I wanted to start with Delegate Sewell. Is she here? I do not see her, so we will move on to Delegate Kent. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Which bill would you like to begin with today?
So I think I'm waiting for a couple of guests for my bill 1909. So if I could maybe do that one secondarily, that'd be great, just to give them a chance to come in. They're coming in person.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and start with H Bill 1910, if that's okay with the committee.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to present HB 1910. This bill is not the story of one kindergarten boy. It's not the story of one 12-year-old 7th grade girl. It's not the story of one school division. It is affecting all of us, parents, grandparents, teachers, classmates, millions of students across Virginia that potentially have been taking trips to the doctor because of physical and psychological reactions to dyes in everyday foods. What are synthetic dyes? They are a set of chemicals added to enhance color. They are not added for nutritional value. They are typically petroleum-based, and they're banned in many countries. And just like our schools and teams that try to protect students from allergic reactions and allergies, we hope that this bill will protect students against harmful dyes, especially during instructional time that is valuable and requires attention and focus. But when synthetic dyes are put in the place of our schools and that quiet focus and time, it's a mixing bowl for disaster. Synthetic dyes have been linked to hyperactivity, emotional meltdowns, ADHD, just to name a few. And in a few situations around the state, we are seeing that we are continuing to fuel situations that may not be best for our students. So to do this and to prohibit synthetic dyes, man-made artificial dyes that are served in our foods, you may be thinking, well, what would be the cost of this to Virginia? And what I would say is, currently, in a lot of our school menus, we offer the ability to offer non-dye foods that currently exist, where you might have a Pop-Tart on the menu for breakfast with dye. You can get a Pop-Tart without synthetic dyes. So we certainly hope that we take this step that's an ease to our school system, but also what we realize is important for our parents and our teachers and our grandparents, but also more importantly for our students, that it's important to them. We see in Virginia the cost, in the US, the cost of things like ADHD, which is on the rise, where we started in 2016 with 1 million students that were ADHD, and now that number has almost quadrupled. This bill would help that cause. It really stemmed from a parent who had a third grader little boy who was having issues in the classroom, and his teacher said, you should go get tested for ADHD. Luckily, that parent went to her pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, stop dyes for 30 days and see what effect that has on your child. And lo and behold, that was the end of that pediatric visit and solved the problem. So I think it bestows upon us as good stewards of our public education system and trying to provide what is best for our students, especially in the sense that it may be the only good nutrition that that child receives that day is the breakfast or lunch and the snack from their school, to make that the best that we can make it. So I would certainly appreciate and would ask for your support of this bill to eliminate those synthetic dyes and harmful dyes from the menus of our school.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you. Do we have any questions from members of the committee? Delegate Green.
Thank you. Madam Chair, as I look at this list, there's 7 of them. I wonder, how did you come up with these 7? If you could elaborate on the 7 and why you feel these are important to ban.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question, Madam Delegate. These are the most prevalent dyes found in foods, especially those that are linked to the ones that our kids consume, the shiny and bright cookies, candies, ice cream. So these are the ones that are the most prolific in our foods and the ones that are deemed most harmful. Each of them have certain associations with hyperactivity and emotional, psychological effects. So these are the ones that are promulgated, the ones that everyone is kind of looking at. I will say that the reds and yellows are the most used dyes in some of those sugary treats and bright, colorful treats.
Thank you, Delegate. I think we will move on to some public comments.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear from people in favor of the bill in person first. So please line up at the podium and please keep your comments to less than 1 minute, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. As a son of a teacher and the grandson of a...
Sorry, can you identify yourself,
Sorry,
please?
Max Crittenden, Deltaville, Virginia. As a son of a teacher and the grandson of a school superintendent, I understand how important meals are for children. This bill, which seeks to prohibit public elementary and secondary schools from offering foods that contain certain color additives, is a vital step toward fostering a healthier, safer environment for our students. As we know, nutrition plays a crucial role in child's development physically, mentally, and emotionally. The food children eat at school directly impacts their ability to concentrate and learn and perform at their best. As I said, my mom is a public school teacher, and she says that she can notice from when a child arrives to school and how they behave in the morning to when they eat their lunch and how they act in the afternoon. I personally have ADHD, and I can notice a difference as well in the morning from when I eat a snack or something that has these dyes in it and how it makes me react and how it's hard to concentrate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you. I'm a mom. My name's Linda Hahn. My son, from early ages, had obvious reactions to especially red 40 and yellow 5, to the point where he became a different evil child. This sweet child would have candy corn and turn around, scream, fight, I wish you weren't my mom. And then the most realistic, like the thing that I noticed the most was the drug would wear off. So within 30 minutes, my son would cry and apologize. This is an actual drug effect on children that's affecting school. And I think the best thing we can do is give our kids the best chance to succeed, especially when it comes to what we are providing to them. These kids have no choice in the matter. It's what we're providing to them. It's the Gatorades, the Doritos, the Pop-Tarts. It's things where other countries are able to have solutions, and I think we should too. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for having us today. I'm also a mom. This is my 5-year-old. She has been dye-free her entire life. I came to understanding dyes closer after living overseas due to my husband's work assignment and working in some of their school districts and coming back here. I started looking into it a little bit more and learning just how much it is affecting people. So where I am in Virginia, I took it upon myself to start talking to the community and to the schools, other moms to see their thoughts on it, and got into the science piece of it and started looking at it a little bit more. And it's something that I find to be very important to bring awareness to in our schools. And it seems to be a lot of people in my area, Virginia, are very interested in it and supportive of it as well.
And is your daughter okay living without Fruit Loops and Gatorade?
She is, and we have so many alternatives. And it's been something great to bring to her school and show that there are alternatives. And we've hosted different things to show that there are alternatives, and there are alternatives that are cheaper.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.
you.
Thank you, Hun.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Broadus, and I am here in support of this bill. First and foremost, as someone who is concerned about the intake of our food products that have artificial coloring and other substances in them. I believe that all natural is a much better thing for our physical body and our emotional stability too. I know that the dyes do create an effect. They actually affect me. I've tried Fruit Loops before and have noticed an immediate difference in the way that I feel. And I did this just as an experiment to see if indeed there was some validity to the assertion that there is a change in it. And I believe that a petroleum product added to our food is really not necessary.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Do we have any folks here in person who would like to speak in opposition to this bill?
Hi, Stephen Marcoux with Arlington Public Schools. It's a qualified opposition. I think our concern right now is we don't know exactly how the effect of this would play out. If the companies that provide the food simply take the color additives out and we can get the same food, the same quality, the same price without it, then that's perfectly fine. We're not concerned with what color it is, but if they don't and we have to start taking significant amounts of food out of our school meals, certainly we're not providing a lot of the foods that were mentioned earlier, but the color additives do exist in many things that we get. If we have to start taking things out and finding new things, we're concerned exactly what the cost of that might be. This could increase costs on schools. If that's the case, certainly we would want the state to put up some money to cover that difference. Otherwise, I think we could be looking at a potential unfunded mandate here. So it's really just sort of, we're at a stage where it's kind of unknown exactly what the effect of this would be. So that's our concern. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So we do have some folks online who would like to testify. So why don't we move to the online folks. I see in the queue that everyone online appears to be in favor of this bill. We've just had some testimony in person in favor. So if you would like to just say, I agree with the former person, that would be great. And I will start going down the list here with Ms. Lisa.
Thank you so much. I'm Lisa Lefferts, a science consultant. I live in Nelson County, Virginia, and formerly I was senior scientist at Center for Science and the Public Interest. And before that, I served on FDA's Food Advisory Committee when it considered the issue of synthetic food dyes in 2011. Thank you so much for considering this bill. Synthetic food dyes can cause or exacerbate neurobehavioral problems in children. Now, actually, that's a quote from the best assessment that's ever been conducted. You don't have to believe me when I say that. Actually, 30 other scientists and 20 organizations said the same thing. We can use the word cause, which is not a word that scientists use lightly, in part because the evidence includes 27 clinical trials, which is the gold standard for evidence of causation. Also, because 3 separate lines of evidence, humans, animals, and test tube studies, all converge to reach the same conclusion. So synthetic food dyes are completely unnecessary. They can be omitted entirely or replaced with safe alternatives, and their purpose is purely cosmetic.
Thank you so
We know
much for
they're
your
unnecessary.
testimony today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Whitney Kaywood.
Okay, there we go. So our son has a neurologic sensitivity to dyes. It causes aggression, trouble falling asleep, stimming, hyperactivity. Thankfully, we identified it early and we were able to find swaps and alternatives. We pack lunch often. But as an inner city school teacher, I am privy to the fact that inner city school students face a lot more challenges than others. Recently, I taught a class where I was teaching about synthetic dyes. And this program was a program where they offer gifts to parents in exchange for parenting classes. And so in this class, the very first question one of the moms asked in this class was, what about Title I funded schools? And what about school lunches and school snacks? And so for many families, this is a big issue, obviously. For us, when our son eats at school, we call ahead to the lunchroom, but that's not realistic every single day. Additionally, some schools won't offer dietary accommodations unless you have an allergy note. And the AWEHA report identifies, looking at 27 clinical trials, that synthetic dyes can cause restlessness, irritability, sleeplessness, aggression, and hyperactivity in some children.
Thank you
and
so
I really
much.
do believe that we
Thank you for your comments. And I think, not sure if this is a relative of yours, but now we have Brandon Kaywood. Aha. He can finish what you were starting to say. Go right ahead, Brandon. There you go.
Okay. Sorry, Whitney's mic is still on, I think.
No, I think we're good now.
Okay. All right. So my name is Brandon Kaywood, and I'm here as a parent, a documentary filmmaker, and founder of a Facebook group with over 690,000 members focused on navigating life without synthetic dyes. My family's journey began when we discovered our son's life-altering sensitivity to them, and his experience is what inspired my wife and I to create a documentary on this very subject. This isn't just our story, though. Thousands of parents in our group share similar experiences of frustration, confusion, and finally relief when they identified dyes as the culprit behind their challenges. The science supports these lived experiences. Multiple studies show that synthetic dyes negatively impact children's behavior and learning, yet these harmful ingredients are still found and served in our schools, the very place where children are supposed to grow and thrive. These synthetic dyes serve no other function aside from cosmetically coloring and brightening our food, but are associated with a number of risks.
Thank you so much.
We discovered just how widespread this issue is, and what struck us the most was how little awareness among families and policymakers. The problem is more common than most realize, but the silver lining is this is all preventable. By passing this bill, Virginia can lead the way in protecting children's health and future. Let's ensure every child can learn and grow in an environment free of avoidable chemicals.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Next up, we have, is it Dr. Scott Faber?
No, thank you. I'm Scott Faber. I'm a law professor at Georgetown University Law School, where I teach food law, and I'm also with the Environmental Working Group. I'd like to make 4 points. One, as you heard from Lisa Lefferts, the overwhelming evidence shows that these dyes are making it harder for some of our kids to learn. 2, the FDA has not thoroughly reviewed these dyes since the 60s, 70s, and 80s, long before studies could detect the effects of these dyes on their behavior and on their brains. 3, we conducted an analysis for California legislators and found banning these colors would have no impact on our school food professionals. Only 3% of the food sold on the tray and only 2% of the food sold a la carte have these colors. And finally, the FDA has no plans to reconsider the safety of these chemicals and is not required to do so. In fact, 99% of new food chemicals are reviewed by the chemical companies, not the FDA. Thank you.
Thank you, very helpful. All right, next we have Brooke Trainer. Go right
Brooke
ahead.
Trainer. I'm a physician, critical care intensivist at VC. So I'm Brooke Trainer. I'm a critical care physician and anesthesiologist at VCU and the VA. I also am the mother of 2 young children, one of which suffers an autoimmune disorder from allergies and hypersensitivities, one to these dyes. So Red 3 has long been recognized as a carcinogen. It's very well published. You can do a Google PubMed search and easily find lots of carcinogen studies linking to Red 3. In 2022, the FDA started considering actually banning this after legislation pressure from the California legislation that passed. So we have already agencies that are looking to implement these restrictions. We can be ahead of the game by moving forward with supporting this legislation here in Virginia. And I just want to comment and echo the 2 scientists and legal experts prior to say that the medical community also recognizes this and recognizes the risk and dangers, especially to vulnerable populations like our children and low socioeconomic status indigent populations.
Thank you for joining us. Delegate or Chair Russell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking to the bill and then a motion.
Go right ahead.
I share your concern, Delegate, that a lot of our food is certainly not as healthy as it should be. When we were visiting a neighboring country in Canada, we noticed that the Fruit Loops were a little different color because they were naturally colored instead of with all of the dyes here. So I commend you on your bill that you're bringing forward, and I think that we should certainly be heading in that direction. Madam Chair, I would propose an amendment with a delayed effective date of 2 years on the bill.
Delegate Kent, would you consider that a friendly amendment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Shall we make that amendment right now, Chair Russell? All right, let's do that. So it's been moved and properly seconded. So without objection, we will make that amendment to the bill.
Madam Chair, I would move that we report the bill as amended.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we report the bill. Any needed discussion?
And Madam Chair, first it would need to be seconded. And then to discussion, we're putting a 2-year, should it continue on through the process, and hopefully it does, 2 years will give the school divisions enough time to think through any changes that they need to in procurement. So that way they can be planning as we move forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Cherry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Absolutely. And speaking to the bill, my apologies.
Go right ahead.
Madam Chair, to be quite blunt, I love this bill, and at the same time, I don't think it goes far enough. I think we should be looking at this in all of our foods, not just with kids, but if we're going to start with kids and we're going to see the impact, I think then that leads us as legislators to see the outcomes that are going to come that I believe. In the very, very conservative enclave of California, they have banned some of these dyes. There's a different Skittle in California than you get in any of the other 49 states because they have recognized that these chemicals are not good for our body. And in such a conservative place as that, I think we should model some of our legislative priorities after them. So with that, I absolutely stand with this bill.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
All right, Delegate Coiner.
Madam Chair, speaking of the bill.
Go right ahead.
I'm also in full support of the bill. You know, I served on a school board for 8 years, and in those 8 years, I was there when Michelle Obama's school lunch and breakfast plan came through, and everyone was like, the sky's gonna fall out because we can't make these changes. We have enormous purchasing power as a state, right? So what we say is what producers end up bringing back to us. So again, just to some of the comments asking that we're talking about cost and effective, we've done it once before. I'd still, like Delegate Cherry, like to see more changes. Like, I've never seen a healthy donut in my life outside of a school cafeteria, and somehow we call them power donuts. But, trying to find real food that kids can find outside of school breakfast and lunch to model their long-term behaviors after. So thank you.
With that, Madam Clerk, you may open the roll. You may close the roll, and that bill passes 8-0.
Thank you so much, Chair and Committee. Appreciate your support.
Of course. You want
Thank
to
you
go
to all those that spoke as well for your support today.
Let's go ahead and do the next bill.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is HB 1909, Agricultural Excellence in Education.
Yes, ma'am. So potentially still on the food line a little bit, but in a different framework. Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me present this bill to you, which is the Agricultural Excellence Commission. This bill seeks to create a commission that no longer silos, pun intended, our agricultural education. As we all know, ag is the #1 industry in Virginia, and it deserves that point in our school system as well. We talk a lot about the grain of farming and the grain of agriculture, and what is that next generation going to be? This bill will speak to that. The commission will develop a comprehensive plan to enhance agricultural education as it promotes itself to be Virginia to be a leader. With agriculture as a cornerstone of Virginia's economy, the commission will help prepare a skilled workforce to meet the industry's current and its future demands. This commission will bring stakeholders together, including the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Education and VDACs, and allow for input from educators, industry professionals, stakeholders, farmers, universities, and well-rounded practical recommendations to continue to move our agricultural industry forward. The commission will help attract and develop young talent in agriculture, bolstering long-term sustainability and growth in our sector. The commission will also incorporate emerging technologies, sustainable practices, and educational programming to ensure our students are prepared for modern agricultural challenges. In addition to the challenges that are created by securing stable and food supply in Virginia as an importer and exporter, the commission work will result in a well-defined and actionable plan, a statewide plan that will report back to the General Assembly in order to eliminate duplicating efforts and enhancing our overall program's effectiveness. I appreciate your support and consideration.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from members of the committee? All right. Hearing none, we are now going to move to in-person testimony. We are running out of time today, so I just want to get a quick sense of who's in the room. If you are here in support of this bill, can you please raise your hand? Wonderful. If you are here in opposition to this bill, can you please raise your hand? Okay, I'm noticing there's no one in opposition, so I would ask those of you who are here in favor of this bill to coordinate together about who is going to present, because we really can't have 20 people speaking in favor of the bill. So those of you who would like to come and line up at the podium to speak in favor, please do. And remember to please keep your comments brief.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Martha Moore with Virginia Farm Bureau. I'm also going to speak on behalf of Virginia Agribusiness Council to try and consolidate our remarks. As the delegate said, we appreciate her bringing this forward. Actually, a strategic review of agriculture education was done back in 2012, and they had a report. This would be very similar to what is being asked today. We believe that it would help us to look at what are the changes with regards to our curriculum. It is a very, very important part of our education system. I am a product of going through vocational agriculture classes. It teaches leadership skills as well as practical skills. My father is also a product of that, and he went through kind of when he when he turned 17, he took over our family's farm. So these classes have a lot of impact on a lot of different kids, and we just urge you to consider moving this forward so that we can have these discussions in order to move agriculture education forward in the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Simons and distinguished delegates and all those in attendance. My name is Dr. Jessica M. Jones. I'm the Agricultural Educator and FFA Advisor at Tunstall High School in Pittsylvania County Public Schools. With over 20 years of teaching experience and service in a variety of leadership roles, I can tell you House Bill 1909 will codify the work of more than 330 agricultural education teachers and more than 42,000 students in the state of Virginia, as we are the preparation pathway to Virginia's #1 and #3 industries respectively, which are agriculture and forestry. By passing House Bill 1909, you'll protect opportunities for students, such as solidifying industry credentialing, like the Virginia Private Pesticide Applicators Exam, ensuring Ag Ed aligns with industry needs, such as preparing leaders to work in the nearly 381,800 jobs created in Virginia in the agricultural sector, and allowing young people like Blake Swaggers, our current chapter president, who's speaking on this topic virtually, to pursue meaningful careers in the largest industry in your state.
Thank you so much. For the rest of y'all, if you could just come up and say your name, your organization, and if you support the bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Meg Coble. I am with Mechanicsville High School FFA and Virginia Tech, and I do support the bill.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ainsley Davis, and I'm from Hanover County, Virginia, and I'm in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Green, agriculture educator at Hanover County, and I support this bill. And these students of ours are the future, and they are excited about entering the industry.
Good afternoon. My name is Mr. Nanny. I'm an agriculture educator at Rappahannock High School. I'm also the National Outstanding Agricultural Educator for Region 6 this year, and I'm in support of this bill. And real quick, will y'all stand up real quick, please? And y'all stand up real quick? And just understand your decision on this bill not only affects these kids that wear these FFA blue jackets, but the other 42,000 kids who are enrolled in agriculture who have worn this FFA jacket since 1928 with pride. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So we have no one in attendance and in opposition to this bill? All right, so we're moving online, where we also have quite a few people in favor of this bill. While we're bringing them up, can I remind everyone that we would like you to be as brief as possible, less than 1 minute. If you agree with the speaker who comes before you, you can just say, I agree, state your name if you support the bill. Let's see, please turn your cameras on as well. Here we go. All right, we'll start with Sarah Jo Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Chair, thank you so much for allowing us all to be here. I am an agricultural educator, past president of the Virginia Association of Agricultural Educators, and I really think that how much support we have showing up there in person and online really is showing you how important these students are to our future, and thinking about what was mentioned in the previous bill about food science and what we can do to make things better. It's through the work of our teachers and the hard work and dedication of our students that we'll be able to affect positive change and contribute to the future of agriculture in Virginia. So I urge you all to move this forward, and thank you so much for your support, and to all of my colleagues and students who rallied together today to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Douglas.
Cole Ramsey from Augusta County, Virginia. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon in favor of House Bill 1909. I offer you a unique perspective on agricultural education, being the child of an agricultural educator, former student and FFA member, a farmer, and an agricultural educator myself. As a child of an ag teacher, I witnessed the opportunities and impact that my father made on the young men and women that he taught. I witnessed them working in many successful careers as well, and the strong character that they developed. As a student and FFA member, I was given opportunities to learn about public speaking, leadership, workplace skills in the ag industry. I introduced to the possibility of a career as an agriculture teacher, inspired by numerous ag educators, many of whom were not my teacher. It's time to establish this commission and better provide agricultural educators and students with the resources they need to continue being successful and even to improve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, keeping our comments brief, next we will go to Christy Kerr. Looks like you're muted.
Try this again. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Christy Carr, and I will go ahead and keep my comments brief, but I just wanted to say that as a student in agriculture education, like the others have said, as a product of the programs, and now as a teacher, and now as a dual enrollment teacher, I believe this commission is going to really push forward agriculture education programs and give students opportunities and continue to broaden the opportunities we give them. In my county alone, we have had many individuals serve on the Board of Supervisors, the school board, high-ranking officials in our sheriff's office, agriculture and business industry leaders, and more. All were alumni of our agricultural education programs in our county, and their start really began in the ag classroom through leadership training, public speaking, inquiry-based learning, and more. This commission would serve as a pipeline to ensure our hands-on learning experiences will continue to thrive. And like I said, as a dual enrollment instructor, offering college credit to my students, this gives our students a jump start to their community college or university education if that's where they choose.
Thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Brian Alexander.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Alexander. I'm a 27-year veteran ag teacher, served on a number of committees throughout ag education, locally, state, and nationally. I just want to come on and support, just put my voice of support behind everything that's been said this afternoon. Remember that we are affecting the largest industry in the state of Virginia with 500,000 employees that go into agriculture. And these young people that have come forth today to speak, and you're going to see several hundred next week come and visit many of you delegates in your offices, and we're excited to be in Richmond with you. But we would ask for your support in pushing this forward so that we can further ag education in the state of Virginia, and that we can have it in every locality across the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if we can have next Blake Swinger.
Good afternoon. My name is the Tunstall High FFA chapter president, and I'm proud to represent students in the National FFA organization and the Virginia FFA Association. I urge you to vote in favor of House Bill 1909, which establishes the Virginia Commission for Agricultural Education Excellence. As a 16-year-old student who has completed agricultural education classes like Introduction to Plant Sciences and Turfgrass Management, I've experienced these programs. These programs have prepared me for both graduation and a career in agriculture. For example, in my turfgrass management class, I had the opportunity to take a private pesticide applicator's exam at just 16 years old. Passing this exam not only helped me meet graduation requirements, but also gave me an industry-recognized certification that I can use to begin working in agriculture right after high school. I urge you to vote for House Bill 1909 to keep the future bright for students like myself. Thank you.
And thank you for bringing up certifications. Those are so important. So, all right. I have a comment from Chair Rasool.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I have a motion, then I'd like to speak to the motion, Madam Chair. I would move that we report and refer to appropriations. Speaking to the motion, Madam Chair, thank you so much for bringing this forward, this important bill, and you brought an army with you, some great students, and they certainly do some great work, and we appreciate, I guess, being the only Democrat in the legislature in the western half of the state. Myself, we try to just make sure that my friends in the urban crescent don't forget about us, but it's obviously very, very important. Just two things I would ask as we're making its way and maybe tightening up the language just a little bit and working with stakeholders, Martha and some others. The language is pretty prescriptive in who is on it from the legislature, and then it's a very large commission at 30. the more we can shrink that down, the more it will actually help in the cost and give you a better chance of passing it in the long run. So hopefully you can take a look at that and see if we can make some improvements together.
So we have a motion. It has been properly seconded. Let's go to the board. Madam Clerk, if you can open the roll. You may close the roll. That motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
All right. I think I see we have Delegate Sewell here. If you want to come on right up. Which bill would you like to start with today?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We can start with House Bill 1880.
All right. Go ahead and tell us about your bill.
So, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, in an effort to provide an equal educational opportunity for all students, House Bill 1880 requires that students with special needs who have parents who are service connected and enroll in a school division upon notice of their new command posts are able to promptly begin the process of beginning the transition into receiving special education services. And this is in an effort to ensure the timely establishment of special education services upon relocation and reducing burdens associated with the process. As we know, students who have parents who are service connected oftentimes move every 2 to 3 years. And during that break in service and transition period, students with special needs are most likely to be impacted. While there are some federal regulations around this, there is a keen effort nationwide to push for additional protections at the state level. So this is simply a language effort to make sure that we are beginning that communication process. But as soon as that transition process begins, which is, of course, the command post letter is issued.
Any questions from members of the committee? Delegate Coiner.
Madam Chair, I have a question for the delegate.
Go right ahead.
I appreciate this work. It's a good bill. The one thing that I would maybe offer as a friendly amendment, and it doesn't have to be on the fly, but for consideration, one of the top issues, so I'm in the area where Fort Gregg Adams. I represent the community surrounding that. And what I heard from our military voice on our state SEAC committee was that when high school students in particular get transferred into Virginia, they are unaware of applied diploma, which is not what we should be encouraging students with disabilities to receive. And yet they're often funneled into that applied diploma because there's less coursework and less rigorous things that they have to do to achieve a standard diploma. I think it's especially important for military families who are unfamiliar with this unique thing of an applied diploma in Virginia, that they understand the choices that their child has in Virginia to get a diploma that they can use to go on to colleges, universities, military workforce, and that has been brought up multiple times among military families of high school students in particular. I'm happy to talk with the delegate after this about it, but I think specifically stating they're required to help families understand and make the best choice for them would be a huge step in the right direction for military families as well.
All right. Any other comments from members of the committee or questions? All right. Hearing none, we will take testimony. First, those in favor. If you can please keep your comments to less than 1 minute. Come on up.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Terry Morgan with the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities. We appreciate the delegate for carrying this bill and we support it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Mike Asap from the Virginia Council of Administrators of Special Education. I just want to appreciate Delegate Sewell's work with military families towards facilitating more rapid processing of their children with disabilities as they transfer to different divisions across the Commonwealth and from other states. IDA is very explicit on this. There's already existing law with it. I think what Delegate Sewell wants to do is get that communication going earlier so that it can happen and facilitate in a more timely manner. So we support the bill in that effort for communication. But Virginia Regs VA 20-81-120 is very explicit with Virginia rules and regs with regard to and supportive of the families in that endeavor. So the regs are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Ashley Wright, representing the ARC of Virginia. Again, we're very grateful to Delegate Sewell for bringing this bill forward. Continuity and consistency is key for children with IEPs, and so we appreciate it and support the bill.
Thank you. Anyone in person who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, let's move online. If we could have our testimony, please keep it to less than 1 minute. Please state your name and your organization. Let's begin with Mr. Rick Dwyer.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, my name is Rick Dwyer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hampton Roads Military and Federal Facilities Alliance, an organization that supports the vast military and federal presence in our region. I'm also a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and served over 20 years on active duty. I'm here today to express our strong support for House Bill 1880. Highly mobile military children are more likely to experience recurring education disruptions and challenges, particularly those with needs for special education and related services. This bill requires the timely establishment of comparable special education services by a receiving school district, which can help alleviate these burdens on military families assigned to Virginia. There's enough challenges that our military families have to face due to frequent moves every 2 to 3 years, and they shouldn't have to worry about whether their special needs child's education requirements will be addressed promptly by their new school. So we humbly request your support for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next we have Mr. Christopher Arnold. We might have lost Mr. Christopher Arnold. Okay, he's coming back. Oh, welcome.
I'm here. They booted me. That's okay.
Go right ahead.
The DoD guy always goes last. Thank you, Madam Chair. Christopher Arnold, Department of Defense, State Liaison Office. Our implementation evaluation for prior education initiatives to support our students with special needs found that Virginia does fall short in some areas. We appreciate Chairman Rasool's staff's assistance in reviewing. When our service members are pulled away from training or operations to navigate lengthy evaluation processes for the continuation of services, it affects not just the family, but the entire unit's mission capability. Virginia's unique military footprint encompassing Quantico's expeditionary forces, Norfolk's maritime operations, Langley's air defense, the capital region's logistical capabilities means a constant rotation of specialized personnel. And we don't want our warfighters choosing between mission requirements and advocating for their children's special needs. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. All right, now back to the committee. Do we have any further discussion or comments from members of the committee? This committee operates on motion.
Move to report.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, let's call the roll. You may close the roll. That bill reports 8-0. And you have one more bill with us, don't you?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 1881. But before I begin to describe the bill, I wish to move the amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Can I have a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded, so without objection, the substitute is adopted. Would you like to tell us about the substitute?
Yes, Madam Chair. The substitute moves the bill from a mandate to permissive language. 2, it removes the residency requirement of calling the Commonwealth home. And the third change, it removes language specific to special education needs. House Bill 1881 is a measure that demonstrates the Commonwealth's commitment to supporting not only our growing veteran population, but also the children of the men and women of our armed forces. And in partnership with school liaison officers, military leaders, educators, and community organizations, Virginia provides vital resources and support to military service children and their families during all stages of their active duty service to our nation. This bill specifically addresses educational needs of children whose parents are full-time active duty service members of the armed forces and ensures that these students have the ability to enroll in Virginia public schools regardless of the school division's geographical boundaries, recognizing the unique challenges that military families face on a regular basis. So it, as I noted, affords each school board in Virginia the ability to develop and implement policies to allow enrollment for any student at the request of their parent if the parent is a full-time active duty member of the United States military. So this is an effort to provide continuity for not only the child but also the family. So all too often a parent may receive notice that they will be deployed and in an effort to keep that child within that respective school division. We often have grandparents or someone else or a close family friend step in and to serve as that primary caretaker during that period of time. They may not reside within that particular school division, and this allows for that to occur.
Delegate Sewell, I think you mentioned that you removed a residency requirement. Can you explain that?
So it was in an effort to make sure that we were being mindful of the fact that while they are currently calling the Commonwealth of Virginia home, as many active duty members know, that while Virginia may be your current home, it may not be your permanent residence or what you see on your license plate as you're driving around the community.
Any other questions from members of the committee? All right, hearing none, we will go to public comment. Do we have people in the room who would like to speak in favor of the legislation?
Steve Markey with Arlington Public Schools. I would like to thank the delegate for working with us and other school divisions on this, and we're happy to support the bill as amended.
Thank you. Anyone here to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we will move online. If you could state your name, your organization, and please keep your comments to less than 1 minute. We will start with Mr. Christopher Arnold. Welcome. Looks like you're muted.
I unmute myself and then they mute me. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Arnold, Office of the Secretary of Defense. What wasn't mentioned in my written testimony, last month I met an Army spouse at Fort Walker. Her daughter was thriving in an accelerated math when the family received their orders to relocate to Fort Barfoot as an instructor. Under current policy, they have to switch schools twice in 3 months, first for the temporary housing and then again when they find that new permanent home. And this kind of disruption forces you to choose between your child's advanced math or continuing your career in the military. So House Bill 1881 is crucial for Virginia's 135,000 military connected students. And we're so grateful to Delegate Sewell and the entire Veterans Caucus really for all your hard work, efforts, and dedication.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Ms. Olson.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tian Olsen. I'm a military spouse and a mother of 2 children. And our children enrolled in public school in Virginia when my husband received orders to come here in 2019. I support this bill because this bill addresses important education need for military families. This bill will allow military children to continue taking courses that may not be offered at the school to which they're zoned. This bill would have benefited our family twice if it was in place years ago. And first time it was my husband was first stationed in Pentagon, and then it was later stationed in Charlottesville. Our family couldn't move with him because we didn't want to change the school for our children. So my husband has to be a geo bachelor in Charlottesville by himself, and which was not ideal. The second time was my children the school they're zoned to did not offer Japanese class. And when we returned from Okinawa, Japan, my children studied Japanese, but they could not continue to take Japanese courses because of school they're not zoned to. So for military families, our story is not unique. Many military families facing similar situations in aligning school curriculum when relocating to new duty stations. So I'm grateful for this bill and sincerely hope this bill will receive the support it deserves.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I did notice that your story was part of our written testimony. So thank you so much for submitting those comments. Next, we have Rick Dwyer. Did we lose Mr. Dwyer? We're going to get him back. Just hold on. There he is. Go right ahead.
Back? Okay, great. Again, Rick Dwyer, the Hampton Roads Military and Federal Facilities Alliance. In support of this bill, our military families often have limited housing options when moving to a new location as part of permanent change of station orders, which results in limited school options for their military children. They often also must move from temporary to permanent housing at some point after school is started, or from permanent to temporary housing prior to moving out of state on military orders. And there are some families that had no choice but to live in on-base military housing due to command requirements, so they won't have the same schooling or placement options available to them as other students. So we humbly ask for your support to provide our military members with the flexibility based on their unique military service requirements. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now moving back to the committee, I have a request from Delegate Cherry.
Madam Chair, a very brief comment and then a motion when appropriate.
Go right ahead.
I love it. Wouldn't be mad if it was mandatory and not permissive, because I think this is something that all communities should do. Sometimes we get kind of caught up in that in the state of telling them what they should, but this is something that all localities, I think, should be mandated to do, not even permissive. And with that, I would move to report. As substituted.
Okay, so it's been moved to report as substituted and properly second. Madam Clerk, you may open the roll. You may close the roll. That bill reports 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee.
Right. Thank you. Next up, we have Delegate Askew with HB 1983. And we will have Delegate Askew present right here at the dais. That's all right.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, before you in the committee, I have HB 1983. This bill requires each school board beginning in the year 25 and 26 school year to annually collect and submit to the Department of Education a report on data on the average salaries of support services personnel employed by the school board. It also, the department to beginning with fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2026, annually compile, include in the annual school report and publicly post such data on the department's website. The bill requires each school board and the department to disaggregate the data by career categories of support services, personnel, and specialized student support personnel as set forth in applicable law. While robust data exists on average teacher pay by school division, there's a significant gap in transparency when it comes to salaries for support staff positions. This lack of accessible information hinders efforts to analyze how compensation affects staff vacancy rates, limits workers' ability to compare pay and advocate for fair compensation, complicates the negotiations of equitable collective bargaining agreements, and constrains policymakers in crafting effective data-driven legislation. I hope it's the will of the committee to pass this legislation.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions from the committee before we go to public testimony? Hearing none, we'll have those in favor of the bill come and line up and tell us why you support the bill.
Afternoon, Madam Chair. Chad Stewart with the Virginia Education Association. We appreciate the patron bringing this bill. We see it very much as a transparency bill. It's data that all school divisions should be collecting and able to easily calculate in terms of averages for certain position areas. We already have good vehicles where we publish average teacher pay in our salary reports, and this would simply be adding a few categories to a table in those existing reports. We also have vehicles through annual surveys where we collect the data on teacher salary averages, and this would just be reporting out that data so we can all have it in one common place and be able to see the results across the state for comparison. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in person in opposition to the bill? Do we have any online testimony? Seeing none, we are back to the committee. Any discussion from the committee? This committee operates on motion.
I'd like to move.
Delegate Cousins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I'd like to move to report.
Right. It's been moved and properly seconded that we report the bill. Madam Clerk, you may open the roll. Right. You may close the roll. That report 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. And we will go at ease. I would like to call the K-12 Education Subcommittee back to order. Next up, we have Delegate Reeser. Delegate, which bill would you like to start with today?
Could we start with House Bill 1945, please?
Yes, we will start with 1945. Go right ahead and tell us about your bill.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. House Bill 1945 is consideration of a telehealth policy for students. This bill is before the committee on the recommendation of the Joint Committee on Healthcare to have school boards consider the option, that is just permissive, of making telehealth appointments available, or allowable, I should say, at school with parental permission. I would like to start by moving the committee amendment, please.
Okay. Do I have a motion to move the committee amendment?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Without objection, the committee amendment is adopted.
Okay, and just I'll ask the staff attorney if he would just read the language of the amendment. It is just a few words being added to clarify that if a school division does intend to employ the policy, they don't have to do it at every single school.
Okay. Council, can you read the amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. On line 17, after secondary school, insert at which such telehealth services are provided.
May I continue, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Staff for the Joint Committee on Healthcare reported on strategies to increase access to healthcare for underserved populations, and this was one of those recommendations, many of whom have limited access to telehealth technology, including broadband service.
Those underserved populations would then have available to them a tool if their school division decides to employ this permissive option. Schools that have technology and internet access and resources may then choose to allow for this service. The policy also includes provisions that have some guardrails that say that if the school division does decide, the school board does decide to pass a policy, that the school division has to ensure that a designated location has both safety and privacy measures, and that students wouldn't then be subject to any kind of disciplinary action, such as being in trouble for skipping class. This would be treated the same as a note from a parent for an in-person medical visit. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, we are ready for in-person testimony. Do we have anyone here to speak in favor of the bill?
Madam Chair, Alan Siebert, Roanoke City Public Schools. We're well into our second school year using telehealth. It is very beneficial for our students. I appreciate the opportunity to work with the patron for that bill of language clarification. Our first reading, our concern was also that because we already provide this, but we do not provide it in school, that because we choose to provide it, that we might have to provide it in school. I think those answers have been resolved, questions have been resolved. If there's any way to make it more clear as it moves forward, that's swell, but we certainly do appreciate the delegate answering those questions. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Kat Atkinson with Voices for Virginia's Children, and we support the bill. This is great for our communities that really need services and accessibility to both telehealth and teletherapy. We appreciate it.
Chad Stewart with the Virginia Education Association. We also support this bill. We are grateful that the patron has brought it, and we're hopeful that more health services can be rendered at school sites. And we know that when students can access health services within a school, their absenteeism rates are dramatically reduced. And we thank the patron for bringing the bill.
Thank you. Anyone in person wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, let's move online. I believe we had a couple folks signed up. If you could keep your comments to under 1 minute, and please introduce yourself and if you're affiliated with an organization. We will start with, Madam, go right ahead. I'm afraid I cannot read your name.
Hi, I'm Lorelei Singh Sank with the Disability Law Center Virginia, and we support this bill.
Thank you very much. I believe that was the only testimony online. So moving back to the committee, do we have any more questions or comments from the committee? All right, this committee operates on motion.
Madam Chair, move to report with substitute and to refer to appropriations.
Second. It's been moved to report with substitute and send to appropriations. Oh, amendments? Okay, amendments and send to appropriations. Madam Clerk, you may open the roll. Okay, that bill, you may close the roll. That bill reports 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we take up HB 1915 next?
Yes, so moving on to HB 1915, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, you might want to just mention to the clerk she can ask you for your vote.
Oh.
So you can vote on your own bill?
I appreciate that. I realize that I'm usually sitting up there, so I didn't run up to press the button. Thank you.
All right, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So HB 1915, I would call this a quasi-technical fix. This bill is clarifying, I think, what the intention was to begin with, that teachers who are no longer in a 3-year probationary period are supposed to be given due process for changes for termination of their contract, for example. and that contract is supposed to continue. But as written, the code section says that either party can give simple written notice without due process. And that was not the intent. I think the technical fix ensures that experienced teachers who have the same right during the school year have that in between school years. And without this change, I'd just like to point out that veteran teachers would have less protection than a brand new teacher. I don't think that was the intention. So by striking the word either party, I think that clarifies that continuing teachers who are quote unquote tenured already continue to have their due process rights even between school years. And I can answer any questions if that's too brief an explanation without more context.
Thank you. Delegate Cherry.
Yes, Madam Chair, question.
Go right ahead.
It certainly seems as though this is a little more than a technical fix, even only is striking 2 words. And it appears to me that this is literally changing how school divisions could retain or choose to not retain students. And so your simple explanation is that it's just a technical fix, but this seems like you're turning the entire system on its ear and saying that only the teacher can decide whether they're coming back or not, and it removes the division of the school division, the power of the school division to say yay or nay that they're going to come back. Am I misreading that?
That is, Madam Chair, Delegate Cherry, that's actually exactly what I first understood. And then in having more conversations with the Virginia Education Association, which is who came to me with the request for this bill, it became clear to me, first of all, school boards and school districts still retain their authority to fire teachers. This is simply addressing the instance in which a teacher who is no longer in that 3-year probationary period they have an automatic continuation of their contract unless it is for cause. This section has been misread in the past to give the impression that a school division can simply give notice that they're not continuing a contract without giving any grievance procedures or pay during grievance procedures. And that is not the case during the school year. It's created a pocket of time between school years in which that provision could be read to give that wrong impression.
I think this is going to be clarified when we go to public testimony. So let's go ahead and go to testimony in person in favor so that we can clarify a little bit. Come right on up. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Catherine Lee, and I am the General Counsel for the Virginia Education Association. I think we all understand the benefits of continuing contract. As a parent myself, it was important for my daughter to have the same teachers as her brother, the ones that she loved, and veteran teachers serve generations of students. What this provision of the code was designed to do was to require a continuing contract teacher to notify Hanover schools or whatever schools by June 15th if they weren't coming back the next year. That's what this code section was designed to do. It in no way impacts the school's right to dismiss teachers. Those provisions are in the code under 22.1307, which says any school can fire a teacher for just cause. The dismissal procedures are in, I think you can ask me a question and I can continue to
go right ahead. Continue. We need to understand this.
Sure. So the dismissal procedures in 22.1309 are still in there. So what this amendment simply does is require the school division, if they want to terminate a continuing contract teacher, let's say on June 1st, they would just have to go through the grievance process that they would have to do if they wanted to do that on November 1st. It in no way changes those important rights for schools at all, and those provisions are in other sections of the code, 22.1, 311, and 313 as well. So this does not in any way change school authority to dismiss their teachers.
All right, thank you so much. All right, come right on up.
So I will say I agree. However, greetings again, committee, Jessica Jones, Tunstall High School, Pennsylvania County. As a veteran teacher, I will say the ability to have continuing contract directly impacts my decision and the decisions of my colleagues to remain as a teacher in the school division. Continuing contract is vital, and I will say this again, it's vital to the recruitment and retention of teachers like myself, and we need to make sure that we have that in continuity. Thank you.
All right, do we have any testimony in person in opposition to this change? Okay, come right on up.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the subcommittee, my name is Jeremy Raley, and wanted to provide just a comment or concern about this bill as an educator who has a vested interest in the continued success of our Commonwealth's public schools.
Sir, can you please tell us what organization are you representing, an organization or a school or?
Yes, ma'am. I'm currently the Chief of Staff of the Virginia Department of Education and a career educator. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. So as a career educator and served as a principal, central office administrator, and superintendent in 2 separate school divisions, believe that this bill does restrict the ability of superintendents and school boards to make decisions in the best interest of their school division and the individuals whom they serve, and would just ask for consideration because this, from our perspective, is not needed and not necessary given the legislation as it is currently written.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anyone online who would like to testify? No. Hearing none, we are back to the committee. Delegate Cherry.
Madam Chair, speaking to the bill.
Go right ahead.
Madam Chair, I think our 2 expert witnesses that spoke in favor contradicted one another a bit in their testimony. And to that end, I think with the school boards standing up and saying, I think this does what I think it does. And so I'll be a no on this, and we'll see how the rest of the committee thinks. But I think we're turning the entirety of how we retain teachers by the school divisions on its head. And I have great concerns about that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion by members of the committee? Committee operates on motion.
Move to report.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report the bill. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, you may open the roll. You may close the roll. That bill reports 5-2. Thank you, Delegate. I think we have one more bill.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. HB 2032.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, HB 2032 is a bill that does 2 things. It defines the state-funded add-on for ELL students and directs VDOE to develop and implement a data collection process. Speaking to the first of those 2 points, the JLARC report in their 2023 report, SOQ report, identified that Virginia's current funding for English learner students is significantly inadequate. However, JLARC's review of 31 cost studies recommended a much higher, a 40% funding add-on as opposed to the current Virginia average of 19%. And HB 2032 provides a useful vehicle to address that funding gap and bring Virginia's support for EL students to the recommended level in the state budget. Recent changes that have been proposed and are taking place to Virginia's accountability system significantly raise the expectations for EL students. Virginia is setting some of the highest expectations for EL students in the country, but we are providing below average funding for their education at this point. And the disconnect is unsustainable and unfair both to the students and the schools that are working to support them. So the flexible funding approach in HB 2032 would ensure that the state doesn't just fund the EL teacher positions, but also provides critical funding for general education teacher professionals so they can develop best practices and support and serve EL students so that we can reach those goals that the new accountability standards would have us reach.
Thank you. Any questions from members on the committee? All right. Do we have folks here in person who would like to speak in favor of this bill?
Chad Stewart with the Virginia Education Association. We certainly believe that some flexible funding pot from the state is needed to support our English learner students. There are needs outside of just teacher ratios for our EL students that I think we all recognize must be served within school systems. Curricular resources, professional development for general education teachers who are spending more time with EL students than their EL teachers is certainly needed. This bill is a good vehicle for getting to some of that flexible funding, but certainly a budget amendment would need to accompany it to make sure that there's adequate funding, particularly at the levels that JLARC recommended in their 2023 report on the SOQs that found that we're severely underfunding EL students in the state. We still have a ways to go to get to the midpoint of the cost adequacy studies for add-ons from other states that they looked at for EL students, and we hope to see that in the upcoming budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in person who would like to speak in favor? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the bill? Please state your name and organization. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Christina Berta, the Chief Operations Officer for the Virginia Department of Education. I recently joined the department after spending 20 years in school divisions such as Chesterfield, Hanover, and Williamsburg, James City County as Chief Financial Officer. VDOE is opposed to the proposed legislation as drafted. VDOE does not recommend continued modification of the existing funding formula. We recommend providing specific funding weights to meet the needs of students, but also to ensure that we have the valid data to support those decisions. As the governor shared during his State of the Commonwealth speech yesterday, the administration is in support of a funding formula overhaul. Thank you.
Thank you. Any do we have any testimony online? Okay, hearing none, back to the committee. Do we have any discussion among the committee members? Delegate Cherry.
Madam Chair, just speaking to the bill.
Delegate Cherry.
Madam Chair, I think this undoes what we just did in HB 1247 and Senate Bill 272, which was put the ratios in place. And I feel like this is just completely undoing what we just did. And to the comment that was just made by DOE, it's the same comment I made this morning about removing the support staff cap, which is we need to do the whole formula, and if we keep nipping around the edges, we're just going to make things more complicated than getting out of the way of these one-off bills and do the comprehensive thing and fix it, because I don't think any of us think it's right the way it is. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right. Any other discussion from members of the committee? Chair Rasool.
Yeah, Madam Chair, speaking to the bill, Madam Chair, just to set the record straight, what we actually did this past year in 2024 was pass an omnibus bill with broad bipartisan support that made a number of different changes as we continued to work through a bipartisan joint committee to think through how the formula needs to be adapted. What happened through the budget was we funded this. Actually, we made this change. We provided the critical funding. We made a concrete step to provide the critical funding. And in fact, the governor's team and some others have found out that we still need to do even more. They've come back and said maybe there's an extra $100 million that need to be put into English language learners. What this does is say that not every English language learner student is the same. That some of them are illiterate in their home language. Yeah. And so we have to meet them where they're at. And of course, that was the JLARC recommendation. So we're not undoing anything. to set the record straight, and hopefully we can continue to make some good progress, because this surely really is not a partisan issue. Thank you, Madam Chair. With that, I would move that we, have we moved this yet?
No, and it does need to go to appropriations.
I would move that we report and refer this to appropriations.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we report and refer the bill to appropriations. Madam Clerk, you may open the roll. Okay. You may, oh, did you want to run up here and vote?
She'll catch it for all three.
Yeah? Okay. All right, we'll catch you. So, Madam Clerk, you may close the roll, and that passes 5-2. Seeing no other business before the committee, can I have a motion to adjourn? Without objection, we are adjourned.